Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Senator Scott. We appreciate you being with us. This is, I think, Dean might correct me, but I think this might be, I'm pretty sure it might be our final TAT
We
chat.
have one more.
One more for the year. We've done 3,282 of them. No, we hadn't done that many of them, but we've done a lot of them over the pandemic. I think for those of you who have been with us for throughout the last 9 months or so, we've always tried to bring you a presentation that is informative, and the updates have been great. I learned something new every time we do a TAT chat. And today we have with us our senator from the state of South Carolina, Tim Scott. Senator Scott does not need an introduction, and I won't go through the bio. The only thing I would say that I didn't know is that he attended Boys State, and I did too, and maybe he'll tell us. I was from the great city of Congaree, and maybe the senator can tell us what, maybe how Boys State influenced his life and what city he was from. But having said all of that, welcome, Senator Scott.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to come before you and have the conversation about some of the more important issues in the upstate. It's good to be with TAT, number one. Number two, I will say, Mayor Roberts, I was the mayor of my city. I was elected a state senator of my county. I ran a rigorous, vigorous, and failing campaign for governor. I was beat like a drum. I mean, it was like a Christmas drum, and they wouldn't stop. Like the Christmas music, we're having it every day for the next year, it appears. And that's how I felt at the end of my campaign. They beat me like a drum. That's why I'll never run for governor of South Carolina. I might be joking, but I have no intention on doing that at all. So that was a great experience. So I will say, I know that I don't want to spend too much time on Boys State, but Boys State is one of the most important programs for developing young leaders in our state and frankly in the country. So while I am proud to be an alumnus of the program, and I'm certainly happy that you are too, sir, there's no doubt that that 1 week was and remains a life-changing experience. I go back to Anderson every year now for Boys State to speak to the guys who are there, 1,000 future leaders of our state and of our nation. To that end, I'll say this, that the folks on the call, you all have done, in my opinion, an exemplary job on turning the economy around. You started the pandemic at 2.4% unemployment. It rose to 12.8% or so, and now it's back down to 4.2. 10 years ago, economists would have said 4% unemployment is a full economy, and you can't do any better than that. They have never visited the upstate of South Carolina. You all are proving day in and day out how successful and impactful one team can be in any region of this country. And you all know this better than I, the FDI, the foreign direct investment, and the role that it plays in our today's economy and our future economy cannot be overstated. The small businesses that has the backbone, the tenacity to lean into a very tough economy is to be celebrated. So I'm, as a small business owner in my past, I am certainly proud and thankful to live in a state where you all have been resilient, responsive, and responsible, and the results speak for themselves. I know that you all have many questions, so I will not continue to pontificate. I'm more interested in a dialogue than a monologue anyway, so I'll get started with answering some questions. God bless. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Senator. And we did have a few questions sent in ahead of time. And if anyone else has something in the chat that they want us to ask, we certainly will. First thing I'm going to ask you is just kind of, general as it relates to the pandemic and your situation. How is your daily and weekly life been impacted in terms of certainly around traveling and other things? What have been some of the things you've had to deal with and change in your routine during the pandemic?
Well, let me just say that, the fact that we've lost over 270,000 Americans to this pandemic is a crisis unto itself. I can't overstate the pain and the misery that so many families and frankly, friends of mine have experienced because of the pandemic. I have a friend in Colombia who is a healthy young fellow, right around 50 years old, who now, thank God, he was on a ventilator for 2 months. He's off the ventilator, but he has congestive heart failure and about 20% of his lung capacity as a result of that. I could go on and on and on about the challenges that I have been confronted with as an individual. So I think we should continue to pray for this nation, continue to pray for those families impacted by the virus, and to be hopeful and optimistic about the absolute warp speed that we're seeing a vaccine come to the table. And that vaccine that's coming to the table is in fact one that has the highest level of efficacy of anything else that we've done, and the effectiveness, comparatively speaking, to the flu vaccine, to the pandemic vaccine, is 90% versus 29%. Said differently, 29% effectiveness for the flu vaccine, and we've heard between 90 to 95% effective for the virus vaccine. So that's fantastic news. All that said, I've had some very interesting days flying 2 to 3 and sometimes 4 times a week. I have learned to pray more than I used to pray. And when you're on a plane that much, you should be praying. I used to pray for the pilots. Now I pray for the guy sitting next to me. I've also learned that there is no distance that someone cannot stick a stick up your nose in order to figure out the testing. I have squirmed more in the last few days than I have in my entire lifetime with getting tested. I've been tested several times. Some are good and some are just miserable. That said, I am really excited about the fact that our nation as a whole is developing through the free market system and in support of the government, CDC, a vaccine that is going to bring us back to normal as we head towards the middle of 2021. 25 million doses will be available this month, it looks like. Well, my fingers are crossed that we'll hear good news. I think it's next Thursday, December the 10th. FDA and others will be making a decision about it. We saw that the good news in Europe being the first with the Pfizer BioNTech coming together. So, Dean, I know it's a long answer to a simple question, but I thought it was more important to cover how the virus is not only impacting me and my personal routines, but how it's impacted so many lives. So with that, I'm happy to answer the next question or follow-up.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right, Senator. And, we recently recognized unsung heroes from across the upstate. And, we, again, there has been, and we don't want to minimize the challenges and the devastation from this event, but there has been a lot of people doing amazing things and a lot of resilience. But I think one of the things that has been helpful to our community and many others was the initial and very quick stimulus packages that the Senate and House and the government came through with. Obviously, there's a lot of questions right now about the next round of stimulus. The Federal Reserve and many economists say that additional federal stimulus is critical to keep the economy from retracting. There has been a stimulus bill passed in the House already. And, I know the Republican Senate has talked about, there's been a bipartisan proposal. It just came out in the last day or two. What is your thoughts about how successful the first round of stimulus has been? And then where do you stand as it relates to moving forward with the next stimulus package?
Well, we've had basically 3.5 stimulus packages already, totaling well over nearly $4 trillion. If you look at the 13.3 commercial paper facilities that are low interest, long-term loans, that $450 billion that we put over there that we're getting ready to bring much of that back, by the way, gave lending capacity of another $3.5 trillion to the marketplace, 3.2 trillion to the marketplace. So said differently, we've had almost $7 trillion of credit and loans to be forgiven as a part of what we've already done. What we've learned very quickly is spending that much money, even in the middle of a pandemic, is proven to be quite difficult. And so to answer that question, we would have to have real good numbers for what's happened. We don't have those numbers as a nation yet. We are still tabulating the effectiveness. We do know that one of the most important and effective parts of the entire apparatus was the Paycheck Protection Program. A little over $5 billion went out, saving more than 50 million jobs. We have about 137, maybe a little bit more, billion left in the PPP that we're now striving to give folks a second bite at the apple. So the answer to the immediate question about what happens with the current bill that's on the table, we need to pass it in the Senate. We've tried on 3 occasions to pass in the Senate a HEALS Act, a smaller version of the 3.5 earlier packages that was met with resistance from the other side. I'm hopeful that we'll have a bipartisan agreement on a much smaller package that provides small businesses that are still in jeopardy more relief. The panoramic view of what's on the table, it's hard to answer the question until I actually see what we put in the package. What's been agreed to, basically speaking, is the 900 billion range is where they're talking, with using about 2/3 of those resources coming from the Fed resources that are being pulled back by the Treasury Department, which makes the net cost of the bill infinitely less. But remember that we, on an annual basis, appropriate about $1 trillion on a typical year in this nation. That means we've already spent that trillion plus another 3.5 trillion on top of that trillion in debt, and now we're asking for more. I need to see exactly what we're going to do with that. I know local and state government is a part of it. The question is, what can they do with the resources? Can they pay down their pension plan obligations and liabilities? We have to have some real restraint built into whatever we do next in order to actually meet the target of helping those people who have need, and not just helping those states who have been irresponsible for decades. So the secret sauce matters.
Right. No, and you've hit on a couple points there that had been brought up about the involvement for local and city and counties and things of that nature. You know, I think it is interesting that, you know, there is certainly some elements where there's been, as you said, you know, some issues for a long period of time, but there also has been, you know, specific losses of income and revenue by whether it be businesses or local governments due to the pandemic. So it sounds like one of your focus areas is how do you make sure that those who are going to be provided additional funds can illustrate and show that there have been losses specifically due to the pandemic and the economic shutdown and struggles that have come from that. Is that correct?
Yeah, Dean, that's the beginning of the conversation. I would just say it, using my own words, there are a few tranches of this discussion that are really important. The first one is $3.5 trillion being allocated in the matter of days, less than 30 days, is a buttload of money that has not all been spent. So for me to actually evaluate the need that we currently have going forward is more difficult to do from a panoramic view. The ability to look in, to peer into small businesses and the operations, we can now say that the next round of the Paycheck Protection Program has tried to target those businesses that have had at least a 35% revenue drop, as opposed to the first round just showing loss in some way because of the pandemic. Putting the tighter constraints on is something that I absolutely support. For local and state governments, we've given out hundreds of billions of dollars to states to be provided to localities. And then depending on the population size, some localities actually receive direct assistance from the Treasury. The question I have to ask myself for all taxpayers in South Carolina and around the country is, how much more can we do given the fact that we are well into a recovery where some parts of our state, as we've seen in the upstate, has responded with a 4%, 4.2% unemployment rate. So the question is, how much is enough? And I do think there's an opportunity for us to help small businesses again. And maybe there's a way for us to provide additional resources for government somehow. But we also have to remember that as the federal government with the ability to borrow, other jurisdictions have the ability to borrow too. So if this is a crisis for them, sometimes the answer has to be a local answer and not a federal answer. And trying to mix all that together is just hard to do on a 20-minute Zoom. But what we're going through here in Washington with my office is trying to evaluate every facet that we can to make a really important decisions about how much is enough and how much is too much.
So do you anticipate that something additional will be passed in the next 6 weeks, in the next 2 months? I mean, what if you had, to be put on the spot as we're doing here, do you think there will be more stimulus coming?
I think the answer is likely. The fact that both sides have agreed to top numbers is important. The question is always, the devil is in the details.
Right.
Doing more in one area will lose 50 votes immediately in the Senate. So finding that balance is going to be really important for us to have a serious conversation about the next steps forward. So I think it's really important to, once again, reinforce the really important point that we cannot do what we don't have the ability to repay. And we have to be careful on that position. That said, chances are pretty good. I'm sorry, Dean, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like that, unlike the first time where speed was
important,
the utmost importance, now it's more, as you said, the detail and that element, the critical element of making sure aid gets to the right people in need and entities. So,
Absolutely.
You have a little bit more time to work on this one.
Yes, sir. And Dean, to that point, I know I don't want to belabor the issue any more than I already have. I'll say this very simply so that I won't be misunderstood by even myself. We are willing to do more for small business. The only question is what the price tag is for doing that more. And if the price is too high, we will vote no. If the price is reasonable, we'll vote yes.
Perfect. Well, let's move on, unfortunately, to another spending issue, and that is the potential government shutdown on December 11th. That's the based on the regular spending bills and allocations. What is your thought of how likely a shutdown is, or are those discussions happening now to make sure that we don't have a government shutdown in the middle of what we know is a critical time for the general economy and with the pandemic?
Yes, sir. What comes to mind is the Grinch who stole Christmas. Our goal is not to play that role in the next movie. So I think the chances of a shutdown is probably less than 10%.
And what do you anticipate that being a clean bill, or will it be connected in some way to the stimulus? What is that discussion happening now?
Well, it's ongoing right now. I had it this morning with several colleagues, talking to folks on both sides. I think the likelihood of us having kicking the ball down the road a little bit, I don't want to say kicking the can down the road, but kicking the ball to the other side of the field is likely with something attached to it. What that tree looks like, what that bus looks like, it's nearly impossible to tell now. All sides are trying to do two things at the same time: be responsible and add into the package whatever they want. And we have must finish pieces of legislation like the defense spending is not done yet. So seeing that attached to a spending bill is more likely than not from my perspective. There's the pandemic relief that is sitting there. Seeing that attached to something, people would love to do that. Anytime you can put legislators in the tough position of supporting what they think is necessary for the nation, and in exchange for something that they think is unnecessary, that balance once again matters. So I would think that the clean CR is not realistic. Something being attached to it is very likely. What will be attached? We just did a few bills on I think it was ALS and other issues that have just passed through. Those being attached to the legislation, I would think it's likely. So there are several outstanding issues that need to be resolved, and that will require, I think, passengers on the continuing resolution.
Well, I guess the good news I'm hearing is that neither side feels that Shutdown to make sure their issues are heard is part of, seems to be part of the plan right now. So that's certainly is good news.
Yes, sir.
Let's go to a couple other things. One that a couple of folks have brought up in the chat, and I know it's been important to you, has been the Opportunity Zone program. And you were involved in that from the very beginning. That has been, I think, much more positive for South Carolina maybe than was even thought early. What is your thoughts in terms of how successful that program has been, and do you see expansion or tweaking of that moving forward?
Yeah, certainly as the author of the Opportunity Zone legislation, I'm really excited about the good that it's doing, especially for the poorest parts of South Carolina, the most distressed communities, or the communities that are benefiting the most, even more than the investors who are investing in those zones. And I think that's fantastic. We have about $75 billion nationwide committed to opportunity zones throughout the nation. We have the largest economic announcement in the country coming out of Hampton, South Carolina in 2017. Hampton had 5,100 jobs. This alone is 1,500 jobs plus 500 seasonal jobs. It has already lifted more than 1 million people out of poverty nationwide. This is a strong, positive bill that has had a tremendous impact. The ripple effect will continue throughout the next few years. There are some on the left that want to tweak the bill. That I want to add to the legislation reporting requirements. I want to make sure that we know exactly what is happening in opportunity zones nationwide. I tried to have that. That was a part of the original legislation. The fact that we had only Republicans supporting the bill as a part of the tax bill when it passed meant that we had to use a vehicle called reconciliation, which eliminated the reporting requirements. It could only have the financial parts attached to the bill. But hopefully some of the folks who were in love with the bill, like Cory Booker and others, will come back to the table, help us get reporting requirements done. I think that's a bipartisan approach that will be really important so that we can analyze and evaluate how much good it's doing to the community that gets the dollars, and how much bad, if it's doing anything bad. I've said myself that if this is not a successful program that actually helps the existing community members, I'd cancel it myself. So I'm still on the same page there. I'm excited about the $315 million investment in Hampton. We also have $60 million in the neck area in Charleston. We have the movie theaters that opened back up in Columbia. We've had in Greenville, the Mayor Knox introduced a $75 million project of mixed housing, affordable housing, workforce housing, and $1 million townhouses and condos in the same footprint. So we're seeing the type of development that creates jobs, improves lives, increases property values, and decreases poverty. That to me is a powerful tool for good.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for being the leader and shepherding that piece. You mentioned bipartisanship, and
yes, sir.
The President-elect Biden has, having been a senator, I think is very focused on that. What do you see in the new administration, the opportunities for working together between the Republicans in the Senate and the Democrats, especially in the Senate?
I'm looking forward to the end of the 2020 election season. If you're not looking forward to it, you're just in love with pain and misery. So I'm hopeful that we'll have finality on that topic very quickly. But here are some issues that we should deal with in 2021 and beyond if we are going to improve the outcome of our most vulnerable citizens in America, and frankly, specifically in rural South Carolina. I think a lot of attention is oftentimes paid to the inner cities that have high poverty, and rightly so. But we don't spend enough time understanding the power of poverty in rural America, and it's something that I'm personally focused on. And one of the ways that we bridge that gap the fastest is broadband and connection issues. If we are not focused on bringing broadband and connection to the most rural parts of South Carolina and America, we are missing the boat. If you want to telework, if you want to use telehealth, or if you want to have virtual education in the midst of this pandemic, you have to have a connection. And when we miss that clear and simple, important issue, we have missed the side of the barn, so to speak. We've just missed it all. And so my hope is that we will partner with the Governor's Broadband Development Fund. It's a bipartisan approach to some of the issues of connection and connectivity around South Carolina. Hopefully we will be in a position to use the $10 billion that we are setting aside for such important impacts through legislative vehicles. We'll be able to combine all that together to see 170 million of those dollars flow to South Carolina. So I'm excited about what's possible in the future, starting in 2021. And if we do that, then we will be working specifically on what I named in 2013, the opportunity agenda, bringing opportunity to where you live, as opposed to making you move from your home. In America today, most parts of America, you can decide where you want to live and then decide where you want to work because of telework. That should be the reality in all of rural South Carolina. And we should put the pedal to the metal, so to speak, and accelerate the development of more broadband and connectivity issues in our rural parts of South Carolina and the country.
You know, it's interesting because when we did our listening tour with the rural counties, I mean, we all knew already that broadband was an issue, but the pandemic certainly is kind of escalated that to the next level.
Absolutely.
And I think that will be something that, you know, is a positive that comes out, is it's probably escalating the ability to have more broadband in rural areas. You know, I mean, you started talking about it 7 or 8 years ago, but, you know, without the pandemic, it maybe would not have moved to the front burner.
Dean, you're right. It was, I won't say it was falling on deaf ears. I'll just say that they didn't have good hearing. So now it appears to me that people are saying, oh my gosh, you can't connect to, your kid can't attend school because there's no connection. I'm like, seriously, dude, what were you listening to in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016? Now it's real for everybody. And frankly, even telemedicine, I could spend a half an hour on telemedicine by itself, but if you're in the rural parts of our state, you're losing doctors. Hospitals are closing. We should be ticked off about that, and ticked off enough to create the kind of connectivity issues that brings the foremost expert in Greenville to Pickens or whatever other example we want to use through telemedicine. That's possible right now if we have the connection. And I get a little irritated about this because having grown up in poverty and having lots of family from rural parts of South Carolina, I just don't understand what we're missing in this picture. And I'm very hopeful that because of the pandemic, as you said, Dean, we are going to see money in the soil for connection in 2021, 2022, and then towards what I call America 2030, the whole nation will be connected before we get to 2030, especially in the rural parts of the country.
No, I think you're right. And I'm going to wrap up with questions around, you mentioned healthcare very briefly, but we had a couple questions around that. One question is there a formal healthcare plan coming from the Republicans at some point soon? And then also as it relates to the protection for people with pre-existing conditions, what especially, as you know, the Affordable Care Act is in the Supreme Court right now, and we don't know what that could come out of that. What is your plans, or what do you see as the things that need to be done to make sure that we are protecting people with pre-existing conditions and things as it relates to healthcare?
Well, listen, one of the reasons why I'm excited about the end of the 2020 election season is that all the, I like to call them myths that were spoken about during TV ads were just basically blatant lies. And let me just give you a case in point. Republicans and Democrats have one thing in common on healthcare. We have all voted to extend pre-existing conditions, period. Since 2015, I think I voted 4 or 5 times for pre-existing conditions. The first pillar of Tim Scott's healthcare plan is to clarify, and not to start, but to clarify that for the last 5 years, we have supported, defended, and included those with pre-existing conditions, which is over 100 million Americans, in the healthcare decisions of their future. So that's number one. Number two, I think it's really important to note that in Obamacare, states like South Carolina and others, if you are 100% of poverty or less, you are not eligible for Obamacare, which is a big donut hole. Our healthcare plan has already, for the last 4 years, identified ways to making sure. Thank you. I got to go vote. My staff just told me to shut up and get off this call and go down to the floor to vote. We want to fill that hole with access to healthcare. The real challenge that we have, and we haven't really had this conversation because it's been so politically attractive to create sides, Republicans versus Democrats, on the healthcare issue. The truth is, we're spending $2 trillion providing health care on the Obamacare exchange for a little under, I think, 10 million Americans or so are on the healthcare exchanges. That's exorbitantly expensive. The expansion of Medicaid actually covers more people than the exchange does. That just tells me that when we talk about the healthcare future, we have to first get rid of the myths, the lies, and frankly, those who have benefited from selling one side versus the other, and have a serious conversation about all Americans can agree that $1 million maximum in your health insurance coverage is ridiculous. We can't have that cap. All of us agree already that pre-existing conditions must be a part of whatever formula happens in the future. And almost no one thinks that the Supreme Court is going to throw Obamacare out. And so we should have basically the 10 commandments of healthcare, and the first one being pre-existing conditions, the second one being access to affordable coverage for those folks under 100% of poverty, the third one being the ability to have catastrophic coverage for 20-year-olds who don't want to buy health insurance at all. The fourth one should include having the ability to have almost like a concierge service where your counties get together, and with a 30% reduction, your small businesses have 3 and 4 and 5 employees can get group plans together, association plans to reduce the cost by up to 30%. The competition across state lines, wonderful, great states, 10 or 12%. But that's only a tiny part of the entire apparatus of healthcare. And that I'm happy to have a longer conversation, perhaps an individual conversation on that issue. And then we have to dig into Medicare. Can you get your treatments at home and not in the hospital? That saves you time, saves the government a lot of money. So there's a senior care component to my 10 commandments of healthcare that I look forward to talking to you all about, as it looks like I might be the ranking member or the chairman of the aging committee. I know that I look like I'm only 25. I know. Y'all are now laughing out loud at me, and that's not that funny. Anyways, so I'll have a chance as a 55-year-old to talk about the healthcare of our nation for our seniors, and I'm excited about that.
Well, and the needs of our seniors is an important issue that we've worked on and others. And so I know you have to go.
Yes, sir, we're voting.
Last I want to say is thank you so much. This organization is about collaboration, and you have been a great collaborator across the board, and we're excited about what you have planned moving forward. You're getting a lot of kudos from the folks here on the chat. So we thank you for the time. We know you have a lot going on, so appreciate the time you've had with us. And we appreciate hopefully getting to be in person at some point again in the future.
Next year.
And hope you get home for Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Dean, let me just say as I get out of here real quick, thank you all for the opportunity to share a serious conversation, an open dialogue. Thank you for that, number one. Thank you for allowing me to be your senator. And frankly, I don't take that for granted. You all can choose anyone you want to, whenever you want to. And I'm just blessed to do it. And third, God bless. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and go Cox, go Tigers. Somebody go do something, but let's keep playing football. God bless you. See you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Senator.
I'm a Gamecock. I know. See ya.
That's all right. Okay, well, we will keep going. The senator is off, and that was quite interesting. We could certainly spend quite a time recapping from that, but we're going to turn it. I'm going to turn it over. Well, before I turn it over to Justine, one, I want to thank our leadership level partners who you can see here listed. Like everyone, we're in the middle of looking at budget for next year, and we appreciate all of our funding partners, not just our leadership level, but everyone who is a partner with us. And thank you to everybody here who has supported our organization. We do have one more TAT chat on for this year on December 17th. We'll be back to our normal time at 3 o'clock, and that's going to be kind of a year in review where we'll look at some of the issues and have some reports from folks involved with some of our initiatives and things. Then I also wanted to mention we have the Upstate Vibe calendar that currently has all of the Christmas parades and those kind of things on. With COVID this year and so many events being canceled, we really put that on the back burner, but we know that people are starting to have, as Sean mentioned, events and programs again. So if you are involved in an event or program and want to make sure it's included on the calendar, Erica Huffman is coordinating that for us, and you can do it through the Upstate Vibe calendar, and Erica is putting the link on now. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justine, and we will have our county updates.
Hey, everyone. Thank you to our people who are coming on for county updates. We're calling it county updates still, but really they've gotten a little more specific. So first up, we have Dalton Pierce, Town Administrator for Blacksburg. And if you'd like to tell us what's happening in Blacksburg and then also in the county too, feel free.
Absolutely. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the time. So yeah, I'm only about 2 months into this job. I'm a North Carolina guy, so I jumped over the state line, and you know, being here in this community, it's a tight-knit community, the county as a whole, but actually the county's doing something really impressive. They're putting together basically a strategic plan to I guess a visioning process is what you would call it for 2037. So a 15 or 17-year outlook, because I think the county's 140 or 50th year anniversary is then. But it kind of helps the municipalities, myself and Gaffney, be able to, we're putting together a strategic operating plan for us as well, and be able to, I guess, not go against the grain, but see what they would like to see happen in the county, especially on this northern half, and try to come together and work in unity to try to keep moving forward. Obviously, as you know, the I-85 widening project is it's very it's got a lot going on, to say the least, and DOT's told me, you know, they're really pushing their schedule, but hopefully that can be completed in the next 2 years. And obviously, just on the other side of the state line there in North Carolina, you have the Two Kings Casino, so that's about a $300 million investment by the Catawba Indians that hopefully will have some spillover into this county and possibly be a generator for some business and residential development as well. But you know, us, as far as what we're doing here, we're getting ready to launch a new website. So I do believe, my personal opinion is, that's your best economic development tool. As you know, people can get online, search, and that's your first opportunity to really have your best foot put forward in that regard. And in saying that, we have some projects going on. We have a Lime Street Park project, which we've been working with Appalachian Council of Governments with the Department of Commerce to finish or get moving forward. We're actually finish up design and hopefully be procuring for construction and have that project completed by September of next year, as well as let's see, we have our Christmas parade that's going to be December 12th. We actually have a Christmas on the Square event after that. So if y'all are in the area, you'd be more than welcome to come by. But you know, we have a lot of good things going on here. You know, like I said, still 2 months in, just trying to get my feet wet. Things are done a little bit differently down here than what I'm accustomed to, but all in all, it's been great. And especially with the holidays approaching, everybody's definitely maybe been a little bit nicer than they usually are. So
thank you very much.
yes,
my first thought is my dad complaining when he has to go north on 85. Oh my gosh. Come on, Dad.
absolutely.
But I look forward to getting out there. I'm almost a little embarrassed to say I haven't been to Blacksburg yet, but I'm looking forward to it. All the little towns in the upstate are so cool and historical. And let us know when you get the website done, and we'll put that online for you.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. We're hoping around Christmas. That'd be a great Christmas present, but definitely pushing before January 1st. So.
Great. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. And we're all, I think people have gone outside more and more this year than ever before, which is a good thing to go along with all the other bad stuff. So we're going to hear from Ken Sloan, Executive Director of Visit Oconee, about everything that's happening out there.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. Wonderful hearing our senator talk about the great things that are happening in our nation and our state. We had some very interesting things happen up here in Oconee. A couple of them were for all the wrong reasons, not necessarily the right reason. First, right prior, like 2 weeks before COVID hit, we have, Duke Energy is a nuclear facility here. It's our biggest employer. They brought in a little over 1,000 contractors to do some shutdown work. They were going to be here for 3 months. So those 1,000 contract workers stay in short-term rentals. So it's huge economic impact for our county just prior to that. And then just about 2 weeks after the epidemic set in, we unfortunately had a major tornado come through and wipe out 178 families. All those families had to be put up in some sort of lodging, which brought in all these contractors from all over the nation coming in. They needed lodging. So at a time where we should have been really down from an economic perspective, we were higher than we've ever been, but for the wrong reasons. So anyway, as we evolved out of that, we knew from an outdoor adventure destination that residing almost dead center between Charlotte and Atlanta, with over 8 million people at our disposal for travel, we knew that they were anxious to get out of their homes. When they got out of their homes, they were less likely to get on a plane. They're less likely to go to a heavily populated resort, more likely to drive 3, 4, 5 hours with their family to an outdoor destination, which made us a prime destination point between these two big cities. And we were pretty much right on, because we were impacted heavily when they started releasing or slowing down the restrictions of the epidemic, and people were traveling in at record-breaking pace. We had all of our parks were pretty much shut down anyway, but we have a lot of waterfalls and trails and lakes and rivers, and we had a problem with people parking out on the highways and walking across the highways, getting into some trails to the forest to walk to the waterfalls. And as a result of that, we also had all of our short-term rentals were booked, overbooked. Hotels were booked, and it was just an amazing. It's just people wanting to get out and experience something more wholesome, less less involved in high public places. As things start to soften up a little bit, people are starting to do more public activities. But here we're still we've actually experienced the 2 best quarters in the history of tourism in Oconee County over the last 6 months, which is bizarre. But we welcome people to get out and have safe trips, safe journeys, safe experiences in our forests and on our lakes and on our rivers. And of course, now we're headed into the winter time. So we continue to, look for great things to come, not only in Oconee County in the upstate, but throughout the state of South Carolina. And more so to Senator Scott's last message, go Tigers.
Yeah, I think the majority of people maybe on the call might be, I don't know. I'm not from around here, but my family is, so I try not to get into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Sure. Speaking of websites, you have a really nice one. If you want to put it in the chat for people, the Visit Oconee website.
Sure. We have a lot of great social media stuff going on, but our website is called visitoconeesc.com. We have to put the SC on there because Oconee, Georgia beat us to the tourism punch many years ago. So when we came out of the box, we were looking at doing something with Oconee. I didn't realize it was in Oconee, Georgia. I didn't realize there was a Lake Oconee. So anyway, we had to put that distinction on there. Visitoconeesc.com. We'd encourage you to get onto there, download our visitor's guide. If you want to get in our social media channels, just look us up at Visit Oconee on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. A lot of great information out there. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have you come visit us sometime in the near future.
Thanks very much. Alrighty, and we'll do some arts. We'll get to some arts and culture with Courtney Oliver. She's the marketing and special events manager for Spartanburg Philharmonic.
Hello all. Thank you for the invitation to talk to everyone today. I appreciate it. You know, the pandemic has really been difficult for a lot of performing arts and organizations, the Spartanburg Philharmonic among them. You know, at the start of the pandemic, we all really felt strongly to continue our mission to engage and enrich and inspire our community through music. And it meant really truly embracing this new space that we're all in, and finding new ways to connect with everyone. And I'm excited to say that we've been able to do that. April through May, we spearheaded a project called Together Spartanburg, which brought together 4 arts organizations here on the Chapman Cultural Center campus in creating daily content, daily video content for our audiences. Those are still available on Facebook, YouTube, and on our website. And I really had a lot of really great feedback from all of our communities, all of our organizations, audiences in doing that. It was a lot of fun too. And in June, we launched our first successful drive-in concert experience for our Bluegrass series. And we're actually holding the 3rd of those next Saturday, December 12th, with Fireside Collective, which is a Asheville-based band. So they're not having to travel too far. And we've got a good group of people that have been joining for us for each of those concerts. You know, it's a great socially distanced way to still experience live music, and one that we've been really pleased at being able to present to our community. Our biggest challenge, though, was in trying to reimagine, re-engineer our classics concerts, which we hold at Auditorium every season. And obviously, in person was not something that was safe for our audiences or our musicians. So, like many orchestras around the world, we decided to go digital. In September, we recorded not 1, but 3 concerts to present online on a new virtual platform that we started. And we have just actually presented or premiered the 3rd of them, our Berg-bound A Stay-at-Home Holiday Concert. And this one, we wanted to kind of throw it back to the spring and re-engage some of our partners here and presenting a concert that is truly of Spartanburg. So we got together with the Spartanburg Little Theater and Ballet Spartanburg to do special presentations of a couple of pieces as part of the concert along with our musicians. So 'twas the night before Christmas. We have Spartanburg Little Theater kind of acting out little vignettes from the book with our recently former school superintendent, Dr. Russell Booker, reading the story along with the orchestra. And then Ballet Spartanburg, we were scheduled to present the Nutcracker in full with them this year. Obviously, that couldn't happen, but we were delighted to present the Nutcracker, the Sugar Plum Fairy Suite with them, with a couple of their dancers. And it looks beautiful, and I invite you all to check it out. We have household passes available for anyone on our website, and is available online through the end of December. So you can watch at your pleasure, and is the same with the rest of the concerts that we've made available this year. But in February, we are looking at returning to in-person concerts at Twitchell Auditorium. We're in conversation with the event staff at Converse College and how we're going to do that safely. We do know that it will be a third of the capacity of Twitchell Auditorium. But at the same time, we are going to offer a live stream of the 2 February concerts for those who are not yet comfortable returning to the concert hall. So we think it'll be the best of both worlds, live in person, live online, really giving us an opportunity to capture and engage even a larger audience. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Thank you, Courtney. It's so great to hear about all the different innovative ways that people are using the hybrid events and in person / online. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will turn it over to Mayor Roberts to wrap us up.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for almost right at the top of the hour, but I want to thank everybody, and I was looking at the comments, and I think everybody appreciated Senator Scott's comments and his straightforwardness on how he leads us in this state. We should be proud of that. I want to thank Dean and Justine and Erica and Michael for what they do for us at 10 at the top. And we'll see y'all at the last TATT chat of 2020. And I hope everybody enjoys the holiday season and stay safe and wash your hands, wear your mask, stay 6 feet apart. Have a good one.
Thank you, Terrence. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.